Hey folks, it's Rob at Wicked Prepared. This is one of the projects I'm most proud of on our property. A huge money saver and one of our biggest time savers by far. Plus it keeps our family fed and healthy. What is it? It's an irrigation system for our garden, but it's not just any irrigation system. This is a gravity-fed drip irrigation system. It uses no city water, no well water, no electricity, and no pumps. Just the power of gravity. In the spring of 2020, I set up this drip irrigation system for our vegetable garden, and it worked awesome. Basically what happens is the rain falls on the garage roof, it runs into the gutter, runs down the downspout, directly into three 55-gallon food-safe barrels. From there it runs through a hose right down to the garden. And once it's in the garden, it goes into a series of 1/4-inch inline emitter drip tubes. And these are spread throughout the garden, and using just the power of gravity, it waters the entire garden. I did a lot of research on all this before I put it all together, and I didn't want to waste a bunch of time doing this if it was going to not work or be unhealthy. I was very concerned about contaminants running off of the garage roof and coming into close contact with our vegetables. What I found is with drip watering, the water goes directly into the dirt. You don't get any splashing or really any water from the irrigation going onto the vegetables. Plus the amount of contaminants, especially on our roof because there's no trees overhanging it, is pretty minimal. There definitely is a chance of it, and I wouldn't be confident just drinking it right out of the barrel. But to be used to water our vegetables, it works just fine. We used it all last year. Nobody died. Everybody's great. We also use this water for our ducks and chickens. Again, I was concerned about the contaminants getting into their drinking water, but I did a lot of research and found that it's really not an issue. Plus, if you ever had ducks and chickens or watched them, you know that they usually walk right by the nice, fresh, clean drinking water you provide them and go find the grossest, most dirty puddle they can to drink out of. So I feel pretty confident with what we give them for water, and we've been doing it for over a year now and haven't had any issues. So it's not a problem. What I absolutely love about this system is it uses only the power of gravity. So if our water system ceases to exist, if we have zero electricity, grid goes down, we can still collect rainwater, we can still run it down here to our garden and use only nature's power to supply water to our vegetable garden. It really makes it ideal for homesteaders and preppers, anybody that wants to be self-sufficient and not have to rely on the town water coming in or electricity or anything like that. It's all self-contained, no power. You just turn the valve and here comes the water. So I'm going to show you our gravity-fed drip irrigation system here. But just make sure you watch through to the end, and I'll give you all the hints and tips on how to set it up. And down below in the description, I'll put all the links for what I've got here for products. They work awesome, and I definitely recommend the ones that I used. Make sure you watch through to the end of the video. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the new addition to our garden. Now it's going to be even bigger. Oh boy. So just to give you an idea of how this works, this is our garage roof. The front of the garage, actually. It already had gutter on it, so I just used the front. You see the gutter goes all the way across the front there, and then this is the downspout for the gutter. It used to come straight down the front of the garage. I extended it and routed it down the side of the garage. And this is our outhouse. We don't actually use it as an outhouse, although I built it so that we could if we had to. It's actually just a Christmas decoration, believe it or not. Then from the front of the garage, it runs down this downspout here and comes straight down, and it runs into these three barrels. Dumps into this first one, and then right there, it's connected to the second one and connected to the third one as well. They do make a device called a first flush device. I didn't use one here. Our gutter just dumped straight into these barrels. What a first flush does is when it first starts raining, it mechanically diverts water away from your rain barrel for a set amount of time. That way the rain has a chance to rinse some of the contaminants off your roof. That can be anything from, bird poop to leaves, blossoms, all kinds of stuff, whatever's in the air. But the first flush diverts that first rain away from your barrels, and then after a certain amount of time it redirects the water back into the barrels, so that way you're catching what's raining. As a side note, we were able to use this water for our birds throughout the winter also. I just bought a stock tank heater and put it in the first barrel here that has the valve on it. It stayed fine for us through the winter. The other two barrels didn't have heaters in them, and those did freeze. Assuming because the water didn't have a chance to circulate back and forth. So just the first barrel stayed thawed out, but that got us through the winter and kept us from having to haul buckets from the kitchen. Just a quick disclaimer so I don't get in any trouble. Some towns, cities, HOAs have restrictions on harvesting rainwater. So just be mindful of that. Don't tell them Rob told you to do it. So this is where the water comes out of the rain barrel. I've got a couple splitters here. This one's open so that if we need water up here by the garage, we can just turn that valve on. And then on this splitter, this hose runs down to where our ducks and chickens hang out. And then this hose runs right down to the garden, and that's where I'll take you next. So it's kind of hard to see with all these bushes growing up, but I'm standing next to our rain barrels right now, and our garden is down here. It's kind of hard to get a sense on camera, but it's about a 15-20 foot drop from where the rain barrels are down to the garden. So as you can imagine, that helps the water flow down to the garden quite a bit. Now I understand that not everybody has terrain like this or has their garden set up much lower than where their rain barrels are. This can still work even if it's pretty level. Some people will raise their rain barrels up, put them on stands and keep them kind of right under the eaves, right under your gutters. Or if the garden is up a hill from where your rain barrels have to be, you could use a solar pump or a hand pump if you had to, especially if we're talking prepping solutions. All right, so we'll head down to the garden now. Trying to give you a sense here, give you a sense of the terrain a little bit. Hopefully you're not getting seasick on me. But you can see there's the garden. Can't really see the barrels now with the bushes, but just believe me when I tell you it's about 15-20 feet drop from the rain barrels down to the garden. So let's head on over there. So just to try to help orient you, I'm in the garden right now, and I don't know how weathermen do this. It's so weird. This isn't a green screen. This is all natural back here. This too. No, nothing fake. It's all natural. That right there is the back corner of the garage, and the rain barrels are right in here somewhere behind all those bushes. So we're down here in the garden. You can see that's quite a bit higher than the garden. So it does help this process, but it's not absolutely necessary, but it does help. So now you've seen how we collect the water. Now I'm going to show you how it gets into the garden and to the vegetables. So that hose comes right up here, and then this is a cartridge filter that came with the kit that I bought with the drip line. There's one screen where the water goes into the rain barrel. There's another screen in the hose where it exits the rain barrel. And then this is kind of the last line of defense. This filter is pretty fine, so it does catch a lot of debris before it goes into the drip line, which is good because you don't want those to plug up. But you will notice that this will plug up fairly often depending on how clean your rainwater is, but all you do is just take that cartridge out, rinse it under the sink or even under the water that comes out of the rain barrel. Just clean it out and stick it back in there. Anytime you lose pressure, you know that that's usually the first thing to check. So the water comes through the hose, goes through this filter, and then into this timer. This timer is the only thing that uses any power or technology or anything in this system. It runs on 2 AA batteries, and I could easily take it out and bypass it if batteries weren't available. This is the first time I hooked this up, was this year. The one that I bought last year isn't working anymore, so I'll tell you to steer away from that one. It's made by Toro. This one is not designed for a gravity feed system, so I'm just using it until the replacement comes in. Hopefully it'll be in by the time I finish this video, and then I can stick a picture in real quick at the end, or it might be right here. And here it is. I did end up getting that new timer in before I finished editing this video, so pretty simple, nothing too fancy, exactly the way I like it. It does run on 2 AA batteries, but again, I can easily just take it out and bypass it if batteries were no longer available. So once it comes out of the timer, I have a 4-way splitter here, and what that does is allows me to control each of the supply lines. So I've got these 2 hooked up so far. I'm going to have a 3rd one for the newest part of our garden, and then I like to leave this one open so that I can fill a watering can, or I could even hook a short piece of hose onto there if I needed to do some manual watering. So everything on this post is kind of like my command center for the irrigation system. Brings it all up into a comfortable working height and keeps it up off the ground. It really works perfect. I really like it. This is the 1/4-inch drip tube with inline emitters. You can see that kind of bulge there in the line, and that hole. That's where the drips of water come out of, and that's the key to this system. It just comes in a roll like this. You cut it to length. It's all fully customizable, and it fits your garden perfectly. She always comes and finds me when I'm in the garden. She loves it down here. Don't you, Katniss? It seriously couldn't be easier. That's what I love about this. And that's why I get so excited about this system, is that anybody could do it. So essentially, in that 1/2-inch PVC supply line, they send you this little hole punch type tool. You just punch a hole, take one of these fittings, stick it right into the supply line, and just push it in. It's a barbed fitting. Just pushes right into the end of the drip line, and then you stick this part into that hole that you punched in the supply line. You lay out your tubing, you stake it down to the ground with some landscape stakes, or some of these kits come with little stakes to use, but you just stake it down to the ground. And once you cut it to length, you take this plug, they call it a goof plug, and it just plugs out the end of the line. That way water doesn't come rushing out the end, and instead drips out of these little emitters. Now I'll go ahead and open the valve to one of the supply lines. I'm not sure how well the sound will transfer to the video, but it's such a rush to flip that valve and just hear the water just running through and eventually coming out of all the drip tubes and just slowly dripping out a little bit at a time. Doesn't wash the soil away, doesn't splash on the vegetables, just nice, even, slow watering. That's exactly what these vegetables need. We'll go ahead and turn the valve. As you can see, dripping out nice and steady. And you leave this running for a while and it'll soak right in and water this whole area. So you can see it's only been running for 30 seconds now maybe. You can see the spots of water already in all these rows. It doesn't take long at all. But what I do is just let it run for an hour, a couple hours until it's nice and damp. And that's what's handy about having the timer also, is you can just turn it on, set the timer, and go off and do something else or work in another part of the garden, and it just waters itself. This system is super easy to add on to. We about tripled the size of our garden for this year, and all I did was order some more drip line, more fittings, more landscape staples, and we'll just keep adding on. You're really only limited by the amount of water that can be supplied to the supply line. Like I said, where we have such a height difference from the rain barrels down to the garden, we get quite a bit of pressure down here without any pumps. So that allows us to have quite a bit more drip line than you would if it was all level. And it's also worth noting that drip irrigation does work with pressurized water as well. So if you just hook up your hose to your outside faucet and hook it up to a drip irrigation system like this, you do need a pressure regulator in between, which you can find easily online as well. But with that regulator in, it just protects the little fittings and drip line, and you can just turn the faucet on and it works just as well as here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I had a really fun time making this video. I get so excited about this system. I can't even help myself. If you did like this video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. It helps us out, helps spread the word. And please click subscribe down below. Is it down here over? I can't remember. But subscribe to our channel if you want more info on gardening and prepping, cooking, organizing, all kinds of different stuff that we do. And make sure to click that bell to receive notifications for when each of our new videos comes out. I went ahead and posted links down below in the description to all the products that I used here in our garden. I can tell you they work. I've tried them. I used them for over a year now and had super good luck with them. So I want to see you get the same exact things. There's a lot of knockoff brands out there, stuff that doesn't work good. And I do want to stress, if you're using a gravity fed system, make sure the drip line that you buy with the inline emitters is designed for a gravity feed system. They do make it for pressurized systems if you're going that route, but if you're doing gravity fed, make sure you get the ones that are designed for gravity feed, as well as the timer. That makes a huge difference. If you got any comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us about your garden, what you've got going on, what worked for you, what didn't. And if you got any questions about setting up your own drip irrigation system, just comment below and we'll get back to you as quick as we can. We love to hear from our subscribers and our followers. Oh, and I promised that sneak peek of our addition to the garden. So I'm in the main part of the garden here. Back there past that white bench, that's the new part. That tripled the size of our garden. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me this year. The advantage is it gets a lot of shade. It does get about 4 to 6 hours of sun, but the rest of the time it's in the shade. And I'm hoping that makes a difference on some of the brassicas and the lettuce. Last year it bolted like crazy. It started off cold in the spring, then it got super hot, dry, and everything just bolted. Say hi. Hi, kitty, kitty. Oh, this is my best friend in the garden.